Rick Ross walked into the PBD Podcast studio in May 2026, confident and boisterous, ready to talk empire building. Patrick Bet-David brought up 50 Cent's reported $100 million net worth, and Ross didn't hesitate. He dismissed the figure outright, questioned the data, and then pivoted to attacking 50's credibility on virtually every business front. Conversation would go viral, spark new headlines, and reignite one of hip-hop's longest-running feuds, but it also planted a specific claim that 50 Cent immediately began examining, that Rick Ross's newly acquired Miami mansion would eventually be worth $100 million. That property, situated at 37 Star Island Drive in Miami Beach, had been purchased by Ross just 9 months earlier for $35 million in cash. Since then, Ross claimed he'd invested approximately $50 million more into renovations and expansions, with plans to add 4,000 additional square feet. The projection was audacious. A property purchased for $35 million, with another $50 million in improvements, allegedly worth $100 million eventually. 50 Cent looked at those numbers and saw something different, not strategic real estate investment, but inflated valuations and a lifestyle that might not be as financially sound as it appeared. The Star Island property itself is genuinely unique. Located on a private, gated island in Biscayne Bay, the enclave contains only about 30 homes, nearly all owned by billionaires and A-list celebrities. The island's geography makes it extremely exclusive. You can't simply decide to move to Star Island and make an offer on any home you want. When they do, the price tags reflect decades of scarcity premium pricing. Rick Ross's neighbors include Sean Diddy Combs, Jennifer Lopez, Gloria and Emilio Estefan, Alex Rodriguez, and hedge fund billionaire Ken Griffin. The island has been written about extensively in real estate publications as one of the most coveted addresses in Miami. A mahogany staircase, heated pool, summer kitchen with full appliances, and a 40-foot private dock with 100 feet of Biscayne Bay frontage. On the rooftop sits a terrace designed for entertaining. After purchasing the property, Ross engaged architect Kobe Karp and design firm MV Group to handle renovations. Karp is a well-known Miami architect who has worked on high-end residential and commercial projects throughout South Florida. The scope of work was significant. Ross has stated in interviews that he's invested easily $50 million into the property when combining the purchase price and renovation costs. He's discussed plans to expand the home by approximately 4,000 additional square feet, which would bring the total living space to around 16,400 square feet. The financial projections he's discussed publicly are worth examining closely. Ross has said he wants to eventually raise the property's value to $75 million, with some sources quoting him as believing it could reach $100 million once all renovations and expansions are complete. In interviews about his real estate strategy, he's emphasized that Star Island is one of Miami's most exclusive and appreciating markets, with properties rarely coming to market and prices continuing to climb. But public financial records tell a different story than the one Ross has been broadcasting. In March 2026, 8 months after Ross's May podcast appearance, mortgage documents became public. According to filings reviewed by The Real Deal and other sources, Rick Ross had refinanced the Star Island property and secured additional financing. Vaster, a Brickell-based lender, provider a new round of financing that brought his total balloon mortgage to approximately $35 million, exactly what he'd paid for the property in the first place. The timing and terms of this refinancing are significant. If Ross had truly invested an additional $50 million into the property and believed it was appreciating toward $100 million, the refinancing should have reflected that increased equity and value. Instead, the mortgage remained at the original purchase price. Vaster had previously issued a $20 million loan in August 2023, shortly after the purchase, and another $4.3 million loan in July 2024. The new $10.7 million in financing brought the total principal to $35 million. The loan structure was based on a 50% loan-to-value ratio, which suggests that lenders valued the property at around $70 million, not the $100 million that Ross has publicly claimed. This is where 50 Cent's skepticism found solid ground. When you look at what a third-party lender is willing to borrow against a property, you get a more objective valuation than claims made by the owner. Lenders conduct extensive appraisals and risk assessments. They don't lend based on aspirational future values. They lend based on current market conditions and realistic appreciation projections. If the Star Island property was truly worth $85 million at the time of the March 2026 refinance, Chapter $35 million purchase plus $50 million in improvements, lenders would have been willing to finance based on that value. The fact that the mortgage remained at $35 million with a 50% loan-to-value ratio suggesting a $70 million valuation indicates that the property's actual market value hadn't appreciated as dramatically as Ross claimed. 50 Cent has repeatedly questioned the sustainability of Rick Ross's lifestyle based on this kind of analysis. He's pointed out that owning properties worth tens of millions doesn't equate to having tens of millions in liquid wealth, especially when those properties require ongoing maintenance, property taxes, insurance, and operational costs. The Georgia estate alone, which Ross calls the promised land, demonstrates this principle. Purchased in 2014 for $5.8 million from boxing champion Evander Holyfield, the property is now estimated to be worth between $30 and $50 million, depending on the source. It's a 45,000 square foot mansion with 109 rooms, 21 bedrooms, 12 bathrooms, and a 350,000-gallon swimming pool. But what does an estate of that size actually cost to operate annually? Property taxes on a Georgia property valued at $30 to $50 million could easily run into the hundreds of thousands annually. Insurance on a home with 109 rooms and millions in furnishings and artwork would be substantial. Location for productions like Coming to America, with reports suggesting he charges $2.5 million as a location fee. He also hosts an annual car and bike show at the property. These revenue streams help offset costs, but they also require active management. In late August 2024, 50 Cent went public with his concerns about this exact dynamic. Appearing on the $1 Million Worth of Game podcast, he referred to Ross's Georgia estate as a big white elephant of a property. He questioned whether the costs of maintaining such a massive property, combined with the property's costs more than the nightclubs, meant Ross was actually stretched financially to keep up appearances. Sense suggested that Ross can stay until he's a squatter, holding on to the leg of the chair that moves. The comment was colorful, but the underlying argument was concrete. Appearance of wealth and actual wealth are different things. The May 2026 PBD Podcast appearance where Ross made his claims also included other specific statements that warrant examination. Ross claimed that 50 Cent lives in a 2-bedroom apartment. He said that 50 doesn't own Power, the television series he executive produced, and doesn't own Get Rich or Die Tryin', his breakthrough album. He made the now infamous crack about letting 50 clean the bottom of his yacht, complete with detailed descriptions of diving equipment. Throughout the interview, Ross positioned himself as the clear winner in terms of wealth accumulation and business success. But 50 Cent's response has focused on specific, verifiable claims rather than engaging in the trash talk back and forth. He's questioned the valuations, examined the financial documents, and asked fundamental questions about the gap between claimed wealth and observable financial metrics. When Rick Ross's new album, Set in Stone, debuted at number 39 on the Billboard 200 in July 2026, with approximately 19,000 equivalent units sold in its first week. The lowest chart debut of his career, 50 Cent used that commercial disappointment as evidence to broaden his argument about Ross's declining relevance and actual earnings power. The album's underperformance is factually documented. Set in Stone dropped on July 17, 2026, via Gamma Records and Maybach Music Group. Ross had relocated from longtime labels Epic and Def Jam to Gamma for this project. The first week saw 19,000 equivalent album units sold, with only 2,096 of those being direct purchases. The remainder came from streaming. The album failed to crack the Billboard 200's top 20, a significant fall from Ross's historical chart performance. On August 4, 2026, 50 Cent posted on X, "LOL, I'm sore, it's over. Can't a fake he it forver," tagging Ross in the post. He'd been trolling Ross about the album's performance since before the official numbers dropped, suggesting at one point that the project only sold 2,000 copies. Ross responded by defending the numbers and attacking the methodology. In Instagram stories, he claimed that real hip-hop fans shouldn't get caught up in propaganda and fake bot numbers. He argued that his streaming metrics showed consistent performance and that the week-to-week stability proved the album's legitimate appeal. He also broadened his counterattack by questioning 50's business record, asking on Instagram stories, "How's it going in Shreveport?" referring to G-Unit Film Studios, the film production facility that 50 Cent has been developing in Louisiana. That project has faced delays and funding challenges that have been covered in entertainment and business media. The feud between these two men extends back to 2009, when 50 Cent began releasing diss records targeting Ross. The beef escalated significantly after 50 filed a $2 million lawsuit in 2015, accusing Ross of rapping over the instrumental from In Da Club, 50's platinum hit single, on a mixtape without permission. Though the case took years to litigate, the Court of Appeals eventually ruled against 50, determining the lawsuit over the tape of Ross's ex-girlfriend Lastonia Leviston, who 50 Cent posted explicit material of without consent, resulted in a jury award of $7 million in damages. That judgment, combined with other financial pressures and legal expenses, pushed 50 Cent into bankruptcy filing in Connecticut in 2015. The bankruptcy is public record. 50 Cent has since recovered financially and rebuilt his wealth to an estimated $100 million as of 2026, according to Celebrity Net Worth and other sources. Tracking his assets. Rick Ross has estimated net worth figures ranging from $150 to $180 million. Depending on which source you consult. Those estimates account for his music catalog, Maybach Music Group ownership, over 25 Wingstop franchise locations, generating millions